everybody, this is Ron Howard from Extreme Sequences bringing you a 3-part tutorial. I'm watching all these posts, and you'd think with a group with just over 17,000 people, everybody would be on the same page. But no. I'm sort of baffled at how many people still use some methods for mapping that are 3 to 4 years old. I kind of don't get it, but at the same time I do, because some of us have lives and we don't live in Facebook groups like I tend to. So here's the layout. Here's the deal, dude and dudettes. We're gonna do 3 parts. Part 1 is gonna be layouts. We're gonna talk about overlaps and groups and views and orders and working smarter, not harder, importing models and submodel groups, and the hierarchy and how to import. We're gonna use some of the automation that's built in the software, so why not use it? The developer spent time building it. Why don't you use it? So we're gonna look at that. The part 2 video will be mapping, basic mapping using some automation. We'll talk about naming conventions. We'll talk about saving the mapping files, creating the mapping files, editing the mapping files, and how to work with 2 instances of xLights. And in part 3, we will get into advanced mapping. We'll talk about non-matching models. We'll talk about wiring issues, and we'll talk about some tips and tricks and try to illustrate that. So, that being said, let's get started. This is part 1. Here we go. We have xLights. And by the way, I'm using xLights 2021.37. I'm not noticing any real issues with it. Can I make it crash? Absolutely. I just gotta say the word. But it's been behaving for me for the most part. And so this is a pretty basic layout. This is one I use a lot when I do my training at Christmas Expo and other minis and get-togethers, Florida Mega Mini, because it's just a nice little cottage. No big deal, not a lot going on, but enough to have groups and a mega tree and a matrix and various things. So first of all, you can't have model overlaps. When you're going to start mapping, if you turn on this overlap checks enabled at the bottom left and you click on a model and you see red turn up somewhere else, that's a bad thing. Now you could spend all this time doing this, or you could just go to Tools, check Sequence. This will generate a lovely little notepad report for you. And this will tell you if you're in good shape. And we want to see no problems found everywhere. Again, ignore all this. What a mess. What a mess. What a shame. Down here, and large blocks, no bloat found, nothing. You know why we don't have any bloat? Because we're using that auto magic with the auto layout and auto size. And we just don't get bloat. It's a beautiful thing. I've got other tutorials on that, so don't ask about that right now. But the main thing is, before you start mapping, and before I take on any mapping projects, I always tell the people, make sure you got a clean bill of health. If I have to fix it, I'm going to charge you. So here we go. This has a good clean bill of health. There's no model overlaps. Fantastic. The next thing, have groups. Groups are so important. Here's my all pixel group. And right off the bat, it's missing some things that I use in my sequences. Now, I never put the mega tree and I never put my P5 panel in my all pixels group. Now, if I had a pixel matrix, I would probably put that in there because the pixels will blend in better. Some of the sequences I have, some of the later sequences will have this in there in the all pixel group. So just be on the lookout for that. But for most, they do not. Now, this model here and these 3 and this squared peg here from Gilbert Engineering should be in there, but they're not. And let's look at the all pixels, no yard. Again, these are missing from that. Now watch this. This is a really cool, fun way to fix this. I'm going to take these models that should be in there, and I'm going to select them all. I'm going to right click. I am going to tell these to add to existing groups. Oh, let's grab one more. There we go. Add to existing groups. All pixels, no yard. Scott Hansen made this possible. Pretty cool stuff, huh? Boom, done. Save. Double click in the background. Click on all pixels, no yard. That looks good. Click on all pixels. That's everything except the matrix because it's the P5 panel and the mega tree, which I rarely put in with it. Sometimes I might, so, pay attention. So there we go. So now we have groups for just about everything. Even the Rosa Grande should have its very own Rosa Grande group. If you have one model, put that one model in a group. And it's as simple as clicking on it. You could just tell it to create group right here and call it GE Rosa Grande group. Naming conventions are so important when mapping sequences. It'll make it a lot easier. Now, if you call your icicles Ice 1 and Ice 2, and I call mine Icicles 1 and Icicles 2, that's okay. That's not a big deal because we don't have a ton of submodels in here. But when we get to things like these high density models from Gilbert Engineering, it's super important that the submodels be left alone with their naming conventions. What do I mean by that? Well, the Rosa Grande feather short group is called just that. And my sequences will be named accordingly. Now, if you're getting sequences from other vendors and they have different group names, then you'll have to deal with that and create possibly a secondary naming convention or group for those. And we can get into that in the advanced mapping portion. Because the nice thing is, when we download a model, and let's just type in Rosa Grande arch. I don't want the arch. Okay. I'm gonna talk to Gilbert's about that one. Let's just go to the high density. There we go. And let's go find the Rosa Grande. Oh, look, it's a circle. That's what I want. Insert model. This is real important here. As you add high density models that have a lot of submodel groups, this is going to recognize the name and say, hey, do you want me to put all the other submodel groups in with the existing submodel groups? And you would say, yes. Okay, now we have 2 of these puppies. And that's cool. I don't know where we would stick this one, but let's just find a home for it. And we'll bring this forward and maybe we're just going to put you here in front of the door. It's not going to look very good. What I'll also do is I'll get it to be the right size by clicking on the first one that is the right size, and then this one. And maybe what we'll do is let's just put you, let's bring you out a little bit. Let's put you up here, and let's resize you. Let's pretend, and they don't have a baby Rosa Grande, so don't ask. There's no way that would work. And you go in here, and let's just throw, for kicks and giggles, we made our very own 1,392 node baby Rosa Grande, which does not exist. So again, don't be emailing them about that. All right. What's neat about this is when we go up here to a Rosa Grande group, they're both there. When we look at the hook CCW group, they're both there. We look at the ring group, they're both there. Spoke group, they're both there. Torch group, they're both there. You didn't have to manually create any submodel groups. The automation and xLights took care of that for you. And that's a beautiful thing. What if your internet's down? I don't know what it would be. What if you can't find a model up here? Maybe you can't find a model, but you have something like this. And you're thinking, doggone it, I really need this, but I can't find the model. But the sequencer has the model. So from the sequencer's world, you could take this and you can export this model as an xLights model, right? And you could put this into a folder or location that you can get to. And what I'm going to do here is keep everything in our world. I'm going to talk about our world in a little bit, but I'm going to put this in the models and I'm going to call this what it is, GEXLS 451. Okay. And I'm going to save that. And then it's going to bring up a dialog box here because the submodels are embedded in this model. All of my models that I use in sequencing have embedded submodels. So all you have to do is go find the XLS. Then sometimes these will already be selected for you. So you find the XLS arms group and you select every one of these. Don't leave any out. Okay, that's everything. That's going to be the main group. That's going to be GEXLS arms, inner arms, flakes. That's everything. And you click OK. And what that has done is it's made a xLights model including all of the embedded submodel groups. So now what you can do is click the import button and we can draw a little box here and we can go to that same folder, mapping training models, click it, open it, and it's going to say, hey, I recognize this model. I know it's got a bunch of submodel groups. Would you like to add this one to those? And you say yes. Bada boom, bada bang. Take this, select this, right click, resize, match size. Bring this one, hit Control Z. How far back are you? We'll bring you over and we'll stick you, I don't know, somewhere right over here. All right, and it's really far forward, so maybe we should push this back, not into the brick, but we have to bring you forward a little bit. And you can use arrow keys or drag the arrows. All right. Good enough. Now we have 4. 1, 2, 3, and this one we've already named itself XLS 454. And that's okay. Typically I'd want 1 here and so on and so on. That's okay. But we've got them done. Okay. So we have no overlaps. We have created the groups we need. Next thing is we're going to need a view. One thing, if you'd like to keep this window just like this, you can right click on it, save current viewpoint as default. So every time you open up xLights, it will look just like this. The other thing I want to talk about is this folder structure. What I want to talk about here is this organization. There's a lot of files you see in here, some that I've created and some that xLights will create on its own. This, of course, is the 3D house image that's in the background. This is the backup folder. Color curves and backup will create itself. I created an FSEQ file folder because that's where I want the FSEQ files to go to keep it organized and cleaner so they're not all over here. House artwork also is the background image. Imported sequences. This is something I suggest you do. If you're getting imported sequences from other folks, I would put them in the name of the vendor's folder. So brand X sequences, budget sequences, and extreme sequences. Inside there, you are going to have the zip files. Leave these zipped up, but we're going to use one of these. We're going to use our house. We're going to actually extract this, okay? We're going to extract this to the same place, and there's only one reason we're doing this, and that's because I want to illustrate another automation built into xLights that can help you organize the hierarchy of your group order, which is also very important when mapping sequences, especially if you have, now, and don't delete this, by the way, especially if you have high density props with a lot of submodel groups. There we go. Let's go back one. And let's go back another. And then we have our imported sequences. This imported media is a folder that will create itself. This is part of the automation. You're going to see what happens with this in just a little bit. And I'll give you a hint. The zip files are what makes this happen. Okay. Mapping files. I would have a mapping files folder to create where you can save the mapping files should you need to go back in there. And then you have the models folder where we put that one model that we exported and then imported. Put your music in a music folder, and try to get used to using those naming conventions. Palettes will create itself, value curves will create itself, X schedule data will create itself, and sort of that's it. So I'm going to move this out of the way. The next step is getting your house layout prepared to receive imported sequences. And we have to have a view. We have to have an order. And I'm going to start this off by creating a basic animation. Before I import, this is what I want you to do. Click on New, click on Animation. I don't care if it's 20 or 40, doesn't matter. And right now, there is a sequence view. I'm going to choose a sequence view, and I'm going to want you to create a view that you can call a sequence view. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay. My sequence view is always available before I import or create a new sequence. And what that view does, it is hard-coded with the hierarchy that I have trained xLights to be based on the submodel folder order necessary to make my sequences look the way they do. Okay, so this is my view. If you have brand X sequence vendor sequences, you can create another view and put these in any order you like and make that your view. This sequence view is my master view for all intents purposes. When I'm in here, that is the master view. Watch what happens. Edit display elements. You'll see everything on the right is what's in my sequencer view. Whether you have your master view or another view, doesn't matter. I'm going to clone this view. And it will be a copy of. And so I'll just call this brand X view. How about that? I think that works. And then I'm going to put these in the correct order they need to be in. We want to put this in an order that makes sense for your sequencer, right? So let's say brand X sequence vendor uses the Rosa Grande way down here, and then this torch group's up here, and this is over here, and these are all messed up, right? And maybe G squared, they never put it there, and I don't know why. I wouldn't do it that way, but let's just say these things are all sort of messed up. And that's just the way they do it, right? Well, don't do this. Don't do all this. There's an easier way. Click on your new view that you've created, click import, and we have two choices here. We can actually put this in hierarchy based on the layout, that being the RGBFX file for that sequencer. So that will be in the zip folder that they sent to you, and that's the reason why I had you unzip the zip folder, just so that we could get to the layout file, or we can actually go straight to the sequence. Pretty cool. So in this case, let's just go straight to the sequence. Now, why would I go straight to the sequence? Well, I have some sequences that are from 2016 in the store, so my layout was very different then. So if you simply model your order of models based on 2021 sequences, it may not be right. At least this sequence has all the models in order that it had during that time. And so if I click open, what we will get here is, you just saw this change, is now XLS Flake Group is at the top. Let's scroll down. We have Square Group is at the top where we put it. All these are in the correct order now. The Rosa Grande Group is at the top where it should be. And the rest of these it has put in order based on my layout or my sequence. And that's a great thing. Now, there's something sort of strange going on here, and this is why this is sort of my second attempt at working at this in the video. It is not putting over, for some reason, some of the basic things that were there, such as the Candy Cane group and the Pixels All. By the way, I usually put my Tree Topper and Mega Tree just underneath the All Pixels because I work on these a lot. I usually will take my Matrix and put that right under my Mega Tree because these are 3 items. Again, my Matrix and my Mega Tree are not in any of the all pixel groups. My Tree Topper is, so I make sure that it is under all of these groups. And that will make things work much, much better. Then just check on the left, see if there's anything else that's missing. Well, yeah, there's my mini tree group. Let's put that in there. And my spiral tree group. So again, for some reason, it didn't pull some of these over. And I'm okay with pulling this over manually, at least just the one time here. And that's it. Let's see, Windows group was already over, so I don't need the rest of these. I don't use these because they're all of the feathers. I like the even and odd groups, not the all groups for the feathers. There's a reason for that. And then this is good. When you have this the way you want it, what we can do is we can just give it a name, and let's just call this budget sequences for the name. And we'll say okay. And then budget sequences, make master. That's it. We can go up here and get rid of this. We don't need brand X. So now we have budget sequences hierarchy. We have my sequences hierarchy. You call this extreme sequences, whatever you like. But you have different worlds now with the hierarchy based on where you get the sequences from. I know this sounds like a lot of information, but this is really important. I hear people say, it's hard to map sequences. Not if you set the stage for the layout. It certainly is not. Okay? It's a lot easier if you create the worlds necessary for where the sequences come from. There's a lot of sequence vendors out there. And I've spent years trying to make this easier for everybody. Okay. So I'm going to stay in my sequence view. I'm going to make that master. And by clicking master, that simply makes it master. The reason for that, the reason that's so important is that this is the master view always. This is going to render based on the master view. I've simply told one of those other views to be the master view. And there's my all pixels, tree, mega tree. It's all in that same order. Super, super important. Okay. That was a lot. I get it. So we created a view, we created order, we're working smarter, not harder. We learned how to import that hierarchy based on a sequence or an RGB effects file. We also brought in a submodel group earlier and saw how easy that was to populate all the existing submodel groups. So that's sort of it. That ends this session. Let me know what questions you have, and I'll get working on part 2 right now. See ya.